I find it surprising that so many people are surprised themselves by the diversity of what we've done. But I mean, it's like almost 10 years since we started making records, and it would be laughable if there wasn't a diversity in that amount of time. If we were just like, I know a lot of people do, like you strike on something and you regurgitate it, and it's you consolidate your position by just like playing the same thing with different words. Unfortunately, most people do that, but we've always been sort of like a bit haphazard in the way that we work and what we do. I never have any idea of what we're going to do next.
What is happening, everybody? Trey here, and today reactions to the classics. It is time for another edition of our Legends series, and this time we have the goth rock pioneers and alt-rock in general legends, The Cure, up for discussion today, man. Gonna be going down 10 things I learned after listening to their entire discography, including, yes, all those B-sides, and also give my rankings for their all their albums, and give my favorite songs as well. So this is gonna be a really fun video to do. I was already a fan of The Cure coming in to doing this video, but on the other side of it now, I am an even bigger fan. And of course, let me know your thoughts on the band, your favorite songs, records, and just where you place them in your personal favorite bands down in the comments section below. Shout out to the patrons as well who voted and had The Cure beat out REM for deciding who was going to be next up. If you want to have your voice into who will be next up in the Legend series, be sure to go and check out that Patreon page as well. But with all that said, let's just get into the quick facts of this group. Who are The Cure? What do we got here? And I think, as I noted at the start, few bands are as synonymous with a certain genre as The Cure are with gothic rock. This is mainly because they are led by songwriter, guitarist, singer Robert Smith. They've released 13 albums to date, sold over 30 million worldwide, and were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2019. The roots of the band, though, go all the way back to the 70s in Crawley, West Sussex, England, where the founding members were childhood friends. After Robert Smith joined a band called Malice in 1976 as the guitarist, they morphed into Easy Cure along with Pearl Thompson, Michael Dempsey, and Lowell Tolhurst. Easy Cure ended up winning a talent competition, signed a record deal with German label Hansa, and Smith assumed lead vocals, which he has kept, of course, up to this day. And after their contract ran out and they dropped Pearl Thompson, the band officially became known as what we know them today, The Cure. They signed with Polydor label Fiction, released their debut single Killing an Arab in December 1978. They soon released their debut record and had the first of many lineup changes by adding Simon Gallup on bass and Michael Dempsey departed. I'm not really going to touch on a lot of the lineup changes because there were so many. There were something like 13 members of The Cure in the time of the conception of the band up until now. But it's important to note that Robert Smith has been the one main force of the band through all their records, with Simon Gallup being the second longest tenured member. The band's next two records, 17 Seconds and Faith, saw them leaning heavy into a bit of a darker post-punk type of sound and garnered acclaim with that. Their 1982 album Pornography saw them firmly in the gothic rock camp now and became their first UK top 10 record. This time also saw the group come into their signature goth look, which is what you probably think of in your mind whenever you hear the name The Cure, right? You think of the big hair, the makeup that Robert Smith's wearing. After Smith also became a member of another very talented group, Susie and the Banshees, the state of the group was actually up in the air. Were we gonna stay together? Should we just call The Cure a day? After more lineup changes and an experimentation in psychedelic and a touch of new wave, and the band had another top 10 album in the top and gained traction in the United States with 1985's release, The Head on the Door. 1987 saw the band's commercial success go even further with Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, as they leaned further into those alt-rock and new wave type of sounds, and they secured their first top 40 album hit in the US, while Just Like Heaven was their first Billboard top 40 song and still one of their more popular songs to this day. Then, ladies and gentlemen, 1989 comes on and they released their magnum opus Disintegration, which was a massive success on both sides of the pond, saw a love song reach #2 on the charts, had a very successful worldwide tour, and the tumultuous departure of Lowell Tolhurst. The band struck gold again in 1992 with the release of Wish, which reached #1 in the UK and 2 here in the States. Numerous lineup changes continued to happen throughout the years that followed, and their commercial success started to wane in the 90s and into the 2000s, but they had a critical resurgence in the year 2000 with the release of the record Blood Flowers, which saw the group return to a bit of a darker, more serious and somber side. Their self-titled record came out in 2004, was top 10 on both sides of the pond, and their most recent record called 413 Dream was dropped in 2008 to a bit of a lukewarm response. A lot of festival tours have commenced since then. They've still stayed in the musical public consciousness in the past 15 years since their last release, and apparently Robert Smith notes there are 2 albums worth of songs awaiting mixing and release. Will that come this year? There are some rumors that it'll come later in 2023. They're coming and touring in the United States actually as well, and so who knows? Maybe we'll have some new tunes by then, maybe not. But in any case, their 13 studio albums now are more than enough for the vast majority of bands to stand on and cement themselves as a legend. So now to the 10 things I learned, and this is just an assortment of things I learned as I went through their catalog. I had already known a lot of their 80s records coming into this, but it was really fun going chronologically, seeing the evolution of the band in lyrically as well as in their sound. And that's gonna take me to the first thing I learned, right, is how many impressive songs they have in a variety of genres. They can pull off the cold, somber tunes like Primary and The Figurehead and A Forest that we really have in their post-punk period. I would deem it in that late 70s, early 80s period. And then, of course, they have the pop hits too. Friday, I'm in Love is undeniably catchy. Close to Me, Just Like Heaven. And then you have the very lush, ethereal-like tracks from that Disintegration era, like Plain Song, Pictures of You, Lullaby, even From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea off of Wish is something that really showcases the production beauty that a lot of the Cure music has. Next thing I learned is that, hey, Robert Smith, he's not just a great frontman as a lyricist, right, who can get to the heart of what heartbreak feels like and the existential crisis that so many people go through, but his often detuned guitars make the band stand out with a one-of-a-kind sound that they made all of their own, as well as a healthy dose of acoustic guitars throughout their catalog as well. Couple that with synths that a lot of the times Robert Smith was either involved in or helped arrange. He really is the heart and soul of this band. There would be no Cure if Robert Smith, of course, was not there as the driving force, and I think he really is a great creative mind of his time, and has really stood the test of time going through his catalog and having that hindsight there. Another thing I learned that was interesting is that, hey, the band, as we know, is the Cure, could have just kind of been a bit of a footnote, because as early as the early 80s, Robert Smith, when he was a member of Susie and the Banshees, said in 1982, do the Cure really exist anymore? I've been pondering that question myself. It has got to a point where I don't fancy working in that format again. Imagine, y'all, if the Cure would have just called it a day, 1982, we would not have ever got so many of these classic records that were to follow. Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, and Disintegration, and Wish, and Head on the Door, and man, all of these great tunes would have just been left there, and the Cure would have just probably been another one of those bands you lump in and think about, hey, they were good in that post-punk period, in that late 70s, early 80s period, and then you pull out a couple of their tracks, you pull out A Forest, maybe Killing an Arab, maybe something like Boys Don't Cry, and you call it a day. But I'm thankful that that never happened. Another thing I learned, you know me, if you've gone through this series, how much I really enjoy those bass lines. And man, Simon Gallup is so impressive as a bassist. There's a reason that he is the second longest tenured member of the group. And a couple interesting stories I read in research is he left the group for a brief time. He famously punched Robert Smith at a bar in 1982, left the group before returning in 1984, and has been with them ever since. But yeah, that's another what if, right? With a band that has decades and decades of of history. There's going to be some blow-ups and some points where, hey, maybe something could have turned out different than what it did. And not to say that the Cure would not have been still a great group without Simon, but I think that he definitely helps elevate that group to the next level musically right there. And hey, they made up. He was Robert Smith's best man at his wedding, and all is well. Another thing I learned is just the overall timeless quality of the Cure's music right here, especially when you're talking their best songs, their best albums. All legends seem to have that quality, right? Not only are you great in your time, but you also stand the test of time for generations that follow. And I think a lot of that 80s synth-heavy music that doesn't, fall into that category. It's kind of its time, right? But the synth managed to subvert that, and the production and layering in that sound certainly has to help. I truly hope and believe their music will be still played decades and decades, maybe even 100 years from now. However the world may look, that some angsty teen trying to find their way is bumping Disintegration and Robert Smith. Another thing I learned, they have so many compilations. I was able to listen to that compilation Join the Dots, which has all the B-sides they ever produced, and I gotta say, listening to it, it was a solid compilation, but I think for the most part, the B-sides were wise to say on the B-sides, and they kept most of the best songs actually on the proper records themselves. However, the Wish era B-sides in the early 90s, right? I'm talking The Twilight Garden, I'm talking Halo, I'm talking Scared as You. They are worth seeking out. Be sure to go check them out, and I wish they were on the proper release of Wish, but hey, we don't always get what we want, right? Next thing I learned on here is, man, the Cure have more remix tunes than almost any other legendary band I've come across. I had to have come across from, deluxe editions and bonus tracks, like 4 or 5 different versions of Forest, and I know that was a kind of in vogue and a big thing in the 80s, is remixing, doing the club mixes, this mix, that mix, 7-inch, 12-inch, whatever the case may be. Most of the time I found that the proper version was the best version, and yet it's cool that they have that type of music too, to be able to remix it. Let's maybe add some more percussion here, let's maybe sparse this out and see how it sounds. And I think that's cool when a band is able to pull that off. Another thing I learned is that, hey, the late career albums are not bad, people. They're not bad. In particular, Bloodflowers for me is a top 5 album that they released of their 13, and showcases how moody sounding Cure songs and records can really stand above the rest. Not often do bands deliver quality albums decades after their peak, but the band did just that with Bloodflowers, and even their self-titled and 413 Dream, though not blowaway albums by any means, they're still have some really solid tunes in them. Another thing I learned is that the group rarely sounds the same from album to album. There's a drive creatively throughout their career that the group is not able to be nailed down, particularly to just one sound. And Robert Smith even has noted this, that he kind of shuns away a bit from the gothic rock label and says, hey, you can't really pin us down to anything. Maybe post-punk in our early career, but after that, we're just kind of an alternative rock group that mixes and matches with a bunch of different things, and we have our specific Cure type of sound, right? You may not like their entire output because of this, but I bet most music fans are able to find at least one record that they resonate with, and in the Cure's output. And like I said, they have that early post-punk gothic rock stuff to more psychedelic type of tunes to alt rock, alt pop. They have a bit of it all, and again, just showcases the talent of the group to be able to pull off so many different genres. Finally, we go now to the properly rated, underrated, overrated portion of this segment. I think the Cure are properly rated as one of the best of their era and a figurehead for goth music and culture as in general. It's hard to imagine some of the bands I enjoyed in middle school, such as My Chemical Romance or Green Day, Blink-182, had the Cure not come around. I think their influence is definitely felt in the coming decades, especially after their peak period of that 80s and early 90s period. I was just really impressed with what the group had to offer. It was very easy to listen to their entire catalog, and I enjoyed the exercise and would encourage you to do so as well if you haven't yet. Now to my album ranking here, from the top down, no pun intended. I have the top at the very, very bottom, y'all. I had listened to it before, wasn't a fan, listened to it again for this exercise, and still not a fan, man. Not a fan of the direction that they were trying to go forth. Definitely throw some psychedelic stuff in there, which I'm usually a fan of psychedelic type music, but there's also just some odd type of rhythms and arrangements that just didn't work for me. Hey, you might have it in the top 5, and that again showcases different sounds from different people when it comes to The Cure. I have their self-titled and 413 Dream, their most recent records, coming in next, while Mood Swings from 96. Then I have Faith at number 9, Three Imaginary Boys, their debut, 17 Seconds, then The Head on the Door, and then top 5, I'm going with that Blood Flowers record from 2000. Then Pornography coming in for Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me at 3, Wish at number 2, and at the top I have Disintegration, one of the best albums of the 80s and in my opinion of all time. Every song on there is an absolute banger, and it works so beautifully and holds up so well. Just the lushness of the arrangement, man, the layered guitars and synths and strings, and Robert's great vocals and lyrics. That is the peak of the band for me. 10 out of 10. And that goes now into my favorite songs, which a lot of them are from Disintegration, right? I have Love Song, I have Plain Song, Fascination Street, also Gotta Go Love to A Forest, and From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea off Wish, In Between Days, A Letter to Elise, Boys Don't Cry, and Out of This World. So those are my top 10 songs in my album rankings, and that is The Cure, people, in a nutshell. A really fun exercise to go through, and it's kind of cool because I feel with a lot of artists in this series, they won't be releasing any music, but hey, with The Cure, that possibility is still there. Maybe we'll be having some stuff coming out as soon as this year. That would be really cool. But with that said, let me know what you thought of this video. Be sure to give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts on all things Cure in the comments below. And like I said at the start, if you'd like to have your voice be heard for what artist is going to be next in the Legend series, hit that Patreon link down below. It'll also be on the end screen, and you can have your voice be heard there and see which pair of artists will be dueling it out next for the next video in this series. It's been good fun. Did James Brown, did Fleetwood Mac, and now The Cure in the bag. Who will be next? Who knows? Who knows? You're going to have to wait to find out. But with that said, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Happy listening. And until next time, I will see you.